and a constant of a change in tone of voice when they were around white people. And some white people got on the bus, and my parents had to move to different positions into the backer part of the bus and give the white people our seats. A few villages that we went to, a well was there. We said, well, here's a well. The water's there. They said, no, we can't drink from that well. I said, well, why? He said, because it's a French well. It's done for me is that I view people really as individuals. I remember my first, the very first incident that I remember, I think I may have been 8 or 10 years old, and we were on a bus. And some white people got on the bus, and my parents had to move to different positions into the backer part of the bus and give the white people our seats. And I remember that so well, because I was wondering, why should we move? And and I remember going into stores where I would see white people changing their clothes and stuff and dressing, and my parents not able to do that, and a constant of a change in tone of voice when they were around white people, and a sense of having a sense of white people are superior, and also the sense of, even in school, of we couldn't run in terms of sports, we couldn't play against white schools. But our image, part of the image was that we were better at athletes than white people. In some ways, we were born that way. And I remember there was a movie, the Tarzan movies, and I remember us seeing, those movies were also shown in the black communities. And at that time, Tarzan was the white hero in the jungle, and he was taking care of all of the blacks who were in the jungle, who didn't wear clothes. And so there were constant images such as this. There were constant images that we were constantly seeing, that we were inferior, and Tarzan was the hero. That I thought that academically and things like this, I was doing okay, but I was constantly being told that even though I may have met this white person who I thought was equal, well, I thought I was equal to him, but something was wrong. And I was telling you, even when I was doing things, I was constantly told that I was the exception. There was something about the fact that my mother was a lighter skin. And I remember in high school dating a dark-skinned person for a while, and my parents meeting her and said, oh, you can't date her. I said, well, why? He said, because she's dark-skinned. I said, well, dark-skinned people are mean. They're mean because they're dark. And this was common, kind of a common thing. Even within the black community, you want to date somebody who's light-skinned because they're better. And even the hairstyles. We used to have a hairstyle called a process, in which to be really hip, if you use that term, you kind of had to fry your hair. And this meant that if you had a process, and you fry your hair, and you even had special skin cream to lighten your skin at that time. And this was done in the black community back then. It wouldn't be done now, but it was back then. I think the fact that, as I was growing up, the fact that I was constantly being tested not only by the white community, but I guess by the economic system, that you have to make more money. And I remember my parents were very, very religious. And on Sunday, a lot of people couldn't, you had to go to church on Sunday, but in order for me to go to a movie on Sunday, I had to have made money on Saturday. And we did things like selling newspapers and digging worms that we would sell to people. So it was important that I try to make some money myself when I was even quite young in grade school. So I was taught that in order to be successful, you had to make money. You had to make some money. And I think later on, I began to more enjoy helping people and doing kind of social work kind of things, and things that I would have to do to make money, even though I worked one summer at a stockyards. And I met a lot of people who had money, but they seemed to be as unhappy as I was, even though they had a lot of money. It seemed not to be related. I guess I identified that pretty early. I mean, for some reason, I don't know. I guess the black people I met who had money didn't seem to be any more or less happy than the ones that didn't. I remember when I was in Africa, in South Africa, I remember going to the South Africa, even though I was Peace Corps director in Swaziland, the fiscal office was still in South Africa for that part of Africa. And I remember going over there with my bookkeeper to go over our books, and while she was dealing with some books, I walked outside and sat on a bench in South Africa because I thought I saw some blacks over there. I sat on the bench, and all of a sudden somebody was hitting the bench. It was a white policeman. And I said, well, what's the problem? He said, you can't sit on the bench. And I realized that there were black people there, but at the time they were all female, and they were taking care of blacks, they were taking care of the whites. The whites' kids could sit on the bench. They had to sit on the ground next to the bench. Even though they were taking care of the kids could sit on the bench and they couldn't. And that kind of thing in South Africa just drove me up a wall. I mean, come on. I went to see Superman in South Africa, but they wouldn't let me in. At first they wouldn't let me in, but I showed them my passport. They said, okay, go on in, So I went in, and sat down, and people were looking at, what is this? What are you doing in here? You're not supposed to be in here. I showed my passport. I'm an American. And so just to get irritated, I decided I got to go to the bathroom. Well, I had somebody from the embassy was with me. So I went into the bathroom, and the whites in the bathroom were just started on each other. I mean, they were just scared the hell out of them. This black guy, what's he doing in here? And so we'd go places that I wasn't supposed to be, just to be irritating. So I saw Superman too, and the people who were sitting next to me, they moved. They couldn't even sit next to me in the movie theater. So this is the kind of thing that I ran into, just to be irritating. But I also remember when I first went to Africa, I went to Ghana. And some of the stores in Ghana, in Accra, the Ghanaians had to wear wigs, a wig, to look kind of European, I guess. So the whole kind of, and when I was in Burkina Faso, some of our volunteers were well diggers, and I remember there were a few villages that we went to, a well was there. We said, well, here's a well. The water's there. They said, no, we can't drink from that well. I said, well, why? He said, because it's a French well. The French people who were here, colonialists, forced us to dig this well. So we dug it because they made us do it, but we're not going to drink water from it. So they would rather be thirsty than drink from that particular well. As long as I stayed, I use the term behind a curtain. As long as I stayed behind a curtain, I was considered bright because I was competing with other blacks in that community. But because I'd had certain experiences that many of them had not had, I was considered probably. But once I stepped out from behind the curtain, and I got to know the Kennedys and presidents and things like this, I could easily go back and forth. I was comfortable, but also by being in East St. Louis and growing up here, and I also used to play drums. I played some drums, and I was able to speak comfortably and be comfortable in the black community. But I was also able to be very comfortable in the white community. I spoke, again, I learned Latin. That was one of my college minors was Latin. And I spoke French and things like this. So when I met white people, I usually had more experience than they did. Most of them couldn't speak French. They hadn't traveled. They had read a lot of the things that I had read, So they in many cases became uncomfortable when they met somebody like me, which made me feel more comfortable. I think what it's done for me is that I view people really as individuals. Because I've seen good and bad every place I've been. And I see good people, so I don't think about, I'm curious as to where they're from and all of this, but that's more because I'm curious as to different social, cultural backgrounds. But it's not a judgment as to that person and what it is you do. Because every place I've gone, I've had to learn a lot about that particular culture, and I'm always curious. My favorite food is Ethiopian. I love Ethiopian food. It's spicy, and so I like a variety of foods that I've tested and tried in different places. And my ideal place to live would be probably in a loft someplace in a neighborhood of cross-cultural people, where I could kind of go and talk to different people from all over. And my son and daughter are very much like that. Wherever we did, they would learn the languages, and they were getting to know the people from different cultures, and so they're comfortable